personality tests they've gone through, therapy they've gone through, all sorts of things they've gone through. And then I'll look at it and I'll ask them, is it working? It's important for people to follow the truth. It's important for you to explore the questions for yourself.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. In today's episode, we meet Faisal Ensan. He's a loving husband and father who has overcome significant adversity and achieved profound transformation not only for himself, but for thousands of others across diverse backgrounds, from students and stay-at-home moms to CEOs and multimillionaires. He's a certified high-performance coach and the co-founder of the Coaching Mastery community and runs the collaborative multifamily investors mastermind. We're so thrilled to have him here. Faisal, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
It's a long time coming, so I'm really happy to have you. Thank you again. And this podcast, as you saw, is about the internal rate of return, which investors know as a really important but complex metric that has to do with the time value of money. But on the flip side of this, we explore how successful investors reach a certain point where it's no longer about the money and instead about focusing on designing a specific lifestyle or pursuing passion projects. And in this way, a person finds their even truer internal rate of return to themselves, which often involves giving back to others. You model this and you have a really special lens on it because you coach investors to do exactly this and reach their potential. So I'd like to spend our time talking about your early journey, where you are today, what your vision is for your future, and then any advice you have for our listeners sprinkled throughout. Does that sound all right to you?
Sounds great. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Great. I always like to start with a check-in question. So the check-in question is, what's something you're grateful for in this moment?
Wow, so many things. I would say, first of all, doing this with you, because this was one of my dreams, to be able to just be with and having conversations with people who are actually interested in growing, improving, and serving at the highest level. But really, I'm grateful for my ability to have a flexible life, to be able to travel whenever I want to. We're actually heading to my brother's place in Virginia. My sister's coming over for 3 weeks here from Sweden. So we're going to be I'm pretty much going to be with them just a few days working here and there. But I can do that quickly because of the businesses that I've built, because of the path that I've created. Actually having an incredible family. I will caveat this because a lot of people don't share this. I have my own challenges and problems, things that I'm always working through. That doesn't mean I have everything figured out. It just means that all the things that I have worked towards and that I've been blessed to have by God, I think that's something to be incredibly grateful for because a lot of people don't, and I didn't have it for a while, and I struggled through that. So I understand the value of it.
I'm going to take a little bit of a pivot here, actually, before even going to the regular interview questions. And that's about the practice of focusing on, we just did a moment of gratitude, but you also, thank you for admitting you have your own challenges. You're human. And I myself have battled depression. So I appreciate that you've brought that up because coming out of it, I recognize that it really takes a daily, even moment to moment practice of choosing to focus on the right things or to, really stay positive. Sounds cliche, but I would love to learn a little bit more about your routines or your practices that keep you centered on the things that are energizing you, even alongside the things that may be draining you.
That might be a long list. But I'll give the themes of like what keeps me aligned and moving forward. First of all, and this is why I do this work quite a bit with any entrepreneur investors. First of all, is a lot of people think that they need to have practices and things to do. Those are the details and things. Those are the activities that are involved, rituals that are involved in life. I look at those as sort of the fillers, but unless you build the container, what are you going to, if you fill there is no container, what are you going to fill it with? So the container is actually what is your life about? What is your vision? What is your sense of purpose? Why are you waking up every day? Like if you ask, there was surveys done around this stuff. If you ask somebody, why do you wake up every day? On average, they will say, well, because I'm alive. Or they will say, oh, why do you go to work? Because everybody else goes to work and that's just a thing to do. Like they will look at the obvious, but there's nothing underneath it. What makes you come alive? What makes you purposeful? What makes you fulfilled? Why are you here at this moment? How far have you gone? Your own story around it. Where are you going? Are you engaged in your life, and what makes you engaged in your life? What makes you connected? I think if you once you understand that, the fillers in the process, like whatever practice you bring into it, will work. But if you don't have that figured out, you can bring meditation, you can bring exercise, you can bring all sorts of stuff. It will not work. This is why there are a lot of people who are obsessed with personal development, yet they're incredibly miserable inside because they haven't figured out the container and they keep filling empty space with something and it keeps getting scattered. And I'm giving this as an analogy or a picture for people to know. There are a lot of things that I do and that will look similar to what other people do, but it's not that. And some of those things, I'll give you an example. I do have my routines. I have my routine to meditate. I have my routine to exercise. I have my routine to check in with myself to see what's going on. And I do multiple check-ins throughout the day. I have my routines for setting intention. I have coaches. I have trauma coach. I have high performance coach. I have business coaches that help me. I don't just rely. I have communities that I rely on to support me. I have the right environment around me. I consistently work with my wife to build my life together, and we deal with challenges that come up. Like those are, I look at all those as fillers, but if I didn't have a sense of direction, purpose, what mattered to me, it would be, I could do all the other things, but I don't think it would have the same effect. I know that because I've taken enough clients through this. And many clients will come to me. They actually have done a lot more than I have. They have a lot better practices, more efficient practices. And then I often will ask them, like they will send sheets and data after data and spreadsheets and personality tests they've gone through, therapy they've gone through, all sorts of things they've gone through. And then I'll look at it and I'll ask them, is it working? And they'll be like, no, not really, not quite. I feel like I'm struggling. Or I'm hoping that it'll work out. And they're trying to copy somebody else's process to make it their own, but it's not working. And often, actually, the simplest thing would be is let's figure out what your life is going to be about. And that is a hard thing to figure out because it's actually very painful to one figure out because as soon as you figure out what your vision is, you're going to have to make some difficult decisions. As soon as you figure out what your life is going to be about, you're going to have to resolve some things from the past. You have to face certain things in the past that are painful to face. You have to get support. You have to get help. It's a lot of work. And most people would rather just have some practices to do and they will stick to it for like 3 months or 6 months and then they'll give up on it. But that was a long answer to your question, but I think that container is incredibly important to understand. And none of us are taught to do that. And I can't teach people to do that. I have to walk them through a process for them to build that themselves because they know their life better. And that's the process of coaching.
Wow. Beautifully done. We're done with the podcast now. I don't know that we find
Yes,
him
that was the shortest podcast.
faisalandson.com if you want to find your container. I need to find mine. It can't help but ponder what mine is as you spoke through that because yeah, I have my practices. And I think, when I hear the question of purpose, I struggle a bit because you hear, or what comes up for me is my purpose is to be a mother, or there's something that I'm debating right now. And I don't know if I can really say that on this podcast, but it doesn't mean I'm not doing my W-2 job. It's just I want to focus some of my brain space when I do have it outside of being a mother to building my own business. So climbing that corporate ladder is no longer as exciting for me. But
So
why?
that tells me that you have clarity around a piece of your vision that you're
A
able to make
piece.
this difficult decision, right? This is not an easy decision, but most people won't even make it. It's like Michael Blanc, like I have a contract with Michael Blanc with my team, and he's in the multifamily space. He's like every time somebody jumps into the multifamily space, and it's like 3 months in, all of a sudden they they take a promotion, they do that, and he was frustrated. He's like, I don't understand why people do that. And I'm like, then why'd you jump into this? Why are you more focused on your career now if you made this decision? And I told him, like, they have no clarity about what matters to them. They have no clarity about their vision. I'm like, you can be frustrated all you want. Your mentors can be frustrated all they want. They haven't worked through it. And you guys don't know how to help them work through that.
Wow. thank you for sharing that. And for our listeners, I'm sure you know who Michael Blanc is. And if you don't, he's a big deal in the multifamily space. And I was just going through that with my own multifamily coach, who you know, Jens, just yesterday, where I was debating going for this job change, this promotion, and he was trying to coach me towards, well, why are we doing multifamily then? So, but it goes back to your thing about purpose, which is my only purpose to be a mother? I mean, I am very driven to be the best human and mother and spouse that I can be, but I don't feel like that's my authentic answer. So that makes me pause to say, okay, I really need to clarify my container more. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
You're
Maybe
welcome.
I,
And there's a Joe Rogan interview. Some people can maybe that will be a very interesting interview. He interviewed Naval Ravikant. He's a great thinker. He asked so they were talking about purpose, and it was so interesting. So and just the conversation led up to it, and Naval Ravikant said something about the pursuing the question of purpose is very important. And once you figure that out, your life will change, something to that effect. And Joe Rogan's face is very interesting. He was actually excited to find out what that is because this guy has explored it. It's like, so what is our purpose? He's like, and then Naval said something that was very interesting. He's like, it's not, the answer is not as interesting as the question itself. And that's
hmm.
a, and he's like, it's important for people to follow the truth. It's important for you to explore the questions for yourself because as soon as you do that, you will find your answers. But most people don't know how to follow that. And they don't have the training, they don't have the thought process, they don't know how to follow that. And so they don't lead to their own answer. And I'm not surprised because I was never taught to do that. I had to learn that from a lot of different philosophers, from my mentors, from my coaches to follow that questioning process. And I went to school for 2 decades. And because we don't know how to follow the questioning process there, we never lead to something that's important to us. We pick up pieces of it, but it never becomes clear. So one of the things that my clients will say after they're in my program about a year, they've gone through this process like 10 different times, their vision, their purpose, and all that stuff. And as they incrementally go through it, it becomes more and more clear. But then they will get to a point where you start to see the focus in their face, the conviction in their face. You throw anything at them and they'll be like, no, this is what matters to me and this is what I'm focused on. And they don't know how to explain that. They don't know how to say that. Like you met Julie, how is she? Like you can see her conviction and her energy, what matters to her. They'll go through challenges, all sorts of stuff, but they have this drive that becomes so clear because it's super connected to their sense of purpose and who they are deep down.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So it helps to, it's not easily articulated because the question that comes up for me, like, Faisal, well, what is it? Is your purpose, is it multifactorial? Is it that you're a father and a husband and a, coach? Or like, is it not that simple?
It's multifaceted, it's multidimensional, it's not one thing. And there are things that I'm not even doing that I know that are related to my purpose. For example, I have this vision of creating a community long term, but that's like a 10, 15-year out thing. I am kind of experimenting with that with different things, but I see that to be a part of it actually, I don't even know because it's so connected to what I want to do. Actually, the reason why I jumped into the coaching because I didn't know, like there was a time when I would get this vision of being on stage or being working with people connected. And it was so ridiculous because I was like the most extreme introverted person you would meet. I didn't like I'm quiet. I would do my own things. I was like, that's the most ridiculous thing I could think of. But for some reason that was important to me and I explored that. Explored, and then that became clear. Now I have a bigger vision towards building a community or one of the visions. And I feel like I'm driven to do that. And I'll make all sorts of weird decisions that will look ridiculous to people because I'm not getting money or anything, but I will experiment with that towards that because I know it's connected to who I am and or a better version of myself towards that potential. And I know that that will serve a lot of people. And I know that there's an intuitive pull that I have towards it. I don't know why, but I know enough to explore that myself and with my coaches and with the people that are serving me and supporting me.
I think I know what you mean. There's this calling, it feels like, and you just have to follow it. And you heard it here first. Sorry for the stumble, but he said 10 to 15 years. I feel like it's going to be more like 5 years, at least the first iteration of it, because the community can evolve, right? And I think you're already on your way, and it doesn't 10 to 15 years seems it's even if that's the appropriate amount of time, I feel like it's going to happen sooner for you.
I hope so.
But
I hope so. But see, it doesn't even matter to me because I think this is so meaningful to me is that I don't care where it goes, how much of it I built. I just like the journey that I'm on. I
yeah.
just love being in this process. There's a part of me that's very engaged with it, and that's just one part of who I am. I also see my family as part of my purpose, that to take care of them, to support them, to provide for them. I also see my purpose working with my wife to build our life together. I also see my purpose with my business partners. I also see my purpose just as a son, or as a thinker, as a thought leader, or there's so many different, but it all converges into what is it that is in my core, or you might say soul. And I only know that. Nobody else knows that. It's more of a feeling, intuitive understanding, but that's based on a lot of deeper work that I've done to connect to that. It's a lot like when you're first starting to explore it, it's think of an onion. The first layer, you peel it, there's another layer, and there's another layer. And when you go deep enough, you will find, well, people will get disappointed because the bottom of it, the inside of it is there's nothing in there. But there's that as you go deeper and deeper, you start to see that, oh, okay, they're all cluing you towards something. In fact, you would start to notice that your whole story has been about that. You start to see a pattern in why what you've gone through. And I guarantee anybody who's listening who's interested in understanding their potential, if you explore your story, if you explore your path forward, you will see a pattern and you'll be like, ah, yeah, that is why I'm here. And this is what religions and sages and saints have been saying all for thousands of years, that when you figure out what your path is, nothing else will matter. This is the most important thing, and this is what you will go towards. And you will see it in your own energy. Other people will see it. And then business, family life, those all become mediums to you fulfilling that potential and that purpose.
Wow. That's really exciting and mysterious. And yeah, I can't wait to learn more from you. This is you've got my gears turning and I have so many other questions, but I'm gonna go into a little bit more about you and your own early journey, if you don't mind. We're gonna peel back some of your onion. And this podcast is about money and mindset and mission. And you know, I'm actually struggling a little bit because I'm what you're saying is lingering with me. Part of me feels so driven to build a life for my family in Macedonia, where my spouse is from. And, it's the complete opposite of what I'm born and raised in the Bay Area. It's fast paced, it's about your career, ambition, and all of that. And we slow our life down. We have a home in Macedonia, and it's really relaxing. And I see us having a very wholesome life there with our children. But at the same time, I'm not the type to just sit and relax. So I'm not clear on what my purpose will be once I'm there. And right now, it feels very numbers driven in order for us to get there. So it's not, my purpose is not to amass a bunch of money. And you actually don't even need a lot of money to live in a third world country. It's called currency hacking. You use the US
Yeah.
dollar to then live a nice quality life somewhere cheaper. But I am somewhat obsessed right now with like how do I net cash flow 10,000, then 20,000, then $30,000 a month. And I know that's not my purpose, but I feel like so called to do that because it will hopefully help me peel the next layer of the onion when I'm not in the rat race.
Yeah. And maybe it is, but maybe the fact that the key there is you feel called to do that. Maybe you're not clear about the bigger picture yet, but there's a part of you that's getting pulled towards it. I think that's important enough to explore that and experiment with that. I give more credit to our intuitive pull or emotional pull toward not kind of temporary emotions, but something that feels more solid, because emotions are temporary. Like they will come and go when you feel anxious, when you feel angry, when you feel, but there are certain things, certain feelings that we have that are more deeper, and we feel it, and we feel pulled to do something. Like I went through a lot of sacrifices around sacrifice in the sense that I let go of a great career in engineering. I had just come out of school after 5 years or so. I worked in the field for 2 years, and then I saw that that was not my path. And it was a difficult decision also and I was younger as well. I had to convince other people. It's like, what I look like a crazy person. And I didn't even know, like at least real estate investors have a tangible thing that they can describe. At the time, coaching was not famous at all 10 years ago. It's like, what are you doing? You're going to talk to people and they're going to pay you money to, it's like, are you nuts? And I didn't know how to explain it either because I didn't know the path enough. All I knew was that I had this intuitive pull, and I was inspired by Brendon Burchard, who created the certified high performance coaching program. I'm like, if he did it and I see how he has impacted other people, why can't I do it? Why can't I go through this? This is my interest. This is what I love to do. This is what I love to study. I can figure it out. I didn't know how to explain any of that to people, but I had this pull towards it. And
Yeah.
my wife saw that, and actually she was my biggest supporter. She went to that first conference with me, and she's like, "You can do it." And through all the challenges that we went through, she supported me, and I struggled, to be honest. For first 2, 3 years, our first daughter was born around that time too. I did not know how business operated. I had no idea what the hell business was or investing was or any of this stuff. All I knew was that I had this pull towards this, and that was good enough for me.
Wow.
And so I'm saying what you have is, I think that's good enough to
Yeah.
pursue it at least. And I think the next steps will become clear. But I do recommend that you go deeper into it to just figure out, like, what is it about that pull? What is it about that intuition that's important to you? Because that will make it more solid. That will make it more so. Because in those times when we struggle, when we feel, especially in business, you know that the biggest thing in business and investing in these things is that you might not see the output right away. It might be a while before you see it. So in those times when you're struggling, when you need to focus on multiple things, when you're running businesses, what pulls you out of it? Usually it's that intuitive pull. Usually it's that vision that you have that allows you to make different decisions. If you don't have that, then it's very easy to get pulled by your emotions with every little thing that's happening in your life.
Yes, this is a major learning that I got from you after Denver, even without your presence, because you handed me the book Untethered Soul. And I've
Yeah.
really been thinking about it every single day, which is how do I keep an open heart? But you're talking about that intuitive pull and that we're not our thoughts, we are not our emotions. But so many of us identify so strongly with that. And if we can't just observe our thoughts and emotions, it's harder to tune into that intuitive pull. So, for example, with me getting shoulder tapped by these influential leaders at my company to consider a role that, yes, I could probably do really well in it and be excited about it, but that would be my ego being filled more about, okay, let's make this move and let's accomplish these things.
Yeah.
But intuitively, I feel like one question I have for you about purpose, can that be considered synonymous in ways with values? Because something I'm reflecting on with this current challenge is, well, I value my time and I value my ability to give headspace to real estate investing. And I value just the work life balance and the rhythm and the predictability and the familiarity of my current role. So it's not exactly maybe I'm answering it is that it's not the same as purpose, but it's pretty similar. So how would you decipher or distinguish values from purpose?
Well, our values are, and I would say they're an indication towards the kind of people we are. Like the values that we have towards, for example, I realized this later on, but initially, for some reason, I couldn't whenever I would work somewhere, even in my as I started my career and I was excited and everything. For some reason, I didn't connect with the culture that companies were creating that I was working with. At least I tried two different companies, and it wasn't even what they were fine. Like I could have seen myself working, but there was something that wasn't uh, setting. And then the other thing that I felt the contrast of, I felt like I didn't own my time. I didn't. I felt like they own this was like I'll tell you this quick story. So there's one of my first jobs. It was at an office. Like it was a very comfortable job. I could finish my work within 3 weeks. The first 6 months, I made a lot of improvements, and I was doing custom work for them, and it was CNC work. As it was like a little bit below what an engineer would do, but at least I was doing programming for them, and because I had a little bit more knowledge, I was improving their productions. So I would go talk to the plant person who was in charge of that complex CNC machine, and I would keep making improvements. The first 6 months, I made a lot of improvements to it. After that, they actually didn't need it. It made the machine 3 times more efficient. And then after that, I didn't have much to sink my teeth in. There weren't any other positions. So I started helping other people around me. But even with that, I could get everything done in about 2.5 days out of the week. And then I would go talk to people, I would do other things. And then at some point, one of the managers came to me. He's like, I see that you're always going around doing other things other than being in your desk. And that actually gave me a huge clue. And I'm like, what do you mean? I've done everything and I'm helping other people too. And I would think that they would appreciate the initiative, but they were more concerned about what I did when I didn't do work. And and I said, I'm like, I've done all my work and I've helped them. He's like, yeah, I understand it, but we have customers coming in. I think you should be more around your own desk area. That's when I realized they didn't own my services, they own me. I did not like that. At least that's the sense that I got. And it actually gave me a clue as to is I want my own path. I do not, that doesn't mean as a business owner, I'm not accountable to other people. I don't have responsibility but I get to decide. And that was, for some reason, that value was so important to me. I didn't know how important that was until I heard that. I was like, no, there's no way somebody else is. After that, I couldn't even get my mind to be there. And even though I changed jobs, I looked at them like, no, I don't fit into anything. I'd rather create something. So that kind of clued into my value around free. And I didn't even know that I had that entrepreneurial spirit, but it was there built in. So that value connected to freedom is one of my biggest values. And then it's not the money, it's the freedom of choice that I'm getting that's very important to me. So it gives you clues to what matters to you, and it gives you clues to what matters to you. This is why our why is usually connected to our values and our what we're aspiring towards. But I don't know if that's clear, but that's our values are usually clues to what matters to us, and they
Yeah.
evolve with us too.
Which is different from purpose. The important thing that you just said was they evolve with us, because if I were honest, my values or what mattered to me earlier in my career was I wanted to be invited to the meeting. I wanted to have a seat at the table and I wanted to have visibility with leadership. I have all those things now and I really don't have command of my calendar. I'm in meetings all the time. I've actually gotten to a point, thankfully, post sabbatical and post parental leave, where I will opt out of meetings if I'm not super clear on the objective and what value I'm bringing to that meeting, which is counterculture.
Yeah.
People expect you to be in those meetings and et cetera. But I I valued that. It mattered to me. I wanted to be in the room. And now I'm in the room and it is important to me. I do feel like this is a natural space for me, but I value more having my free time. And so I don't need to be in the room all the time. So I don't know if that
And
makes
you
sense.
you described a very powerful frame that a lot of entrepreneurs and investors kind of come across, but they don't know how to articulate it. So there are two types of games that people play. Like when you're in the corporate world, usually you're playing the status game. It's about promotions. It's about the next level. It's about the accolades. It's about what you're being recognized at. And then you get to a point, if you come to a point where you kind of connect to that entrepreneurial spirit, or you feel like your life needs to have a deeper meaning, or you feel like you're going towards something, another dimension of who you are comes in. That's the freedom side of you. And freedom and status can go opposite to each other actually for a long time. And this is why entrepreneurial path that can be, especially if you have a startup or you're starting from scratch or you're starting as a multifamily investor, you will not have accolades and status for a long, long time. And most people's ability to sustain whatever they're doing is they've been trained by giving them external feedback. External feedback comes in terms of money, accolades, social status, all. So that's a status game. Anybody who's in the corporate game, that's the game they're playing. As soon as you get out of that, you're nobody for a long time. And I've gone through that the past decade, and nobody knows. In fact, most people will think you're crazy. Most people will not understand why you're dedicating so much time to do something, or why are you doing something that doesn't have a payoff, because they're not trained to think like that. There's this one thinker that said there are two types of two big addictions. There's heroin and a monthly salary. So and business doesn't work like that. Once you start something new, it takes a while until something picks up. Most big projects I'm involved with, that's not going to pay me off in 10 years.
Right.
But I'm dedicated every week to it because one, I care about that. I'm fulfilled by it. It's the process that I care about more. And most entrepreneurs are like that. They're trying to solve problems. They care about the process. They're fulfilled by the process, and they're doing that. They're not even concerned about what they're getting, but they're not expecting the paycheck next week, 2 weeks, and more. And I train other coaches as well. I have a community coaching master community. And coaches are a lot like investors too. When they come in, they have virtually no business training. They haven't gone through that. Their mindset is not there, and they're developing it. First 3 to 6 months, they cannot. It's so hard for them to stick to it because they're not getting paychecks. They're not getting the feedback. They're not getting the many of them had really good positions. People were recognizing them, all that stuff. None of that. They're starting from scratch. And that's actually an incredibly difficult to do thing to do for most human beings. One, because we're a social species. We want status. Everybody wants it. I want status. But again, where is your value? If you're going to be an investor or entrepreneur, your value towards freedom better be much bigger than you wanting status right now, because you might not have that for a long, long time. And
This
it
is
sounds like
so,
you're picking freedom.
this is so, so important though, because you're right. Part of why I was so high performing in my career in corporate, or have been, is that it's that addiction to the positive feedback. It's like you do this or you overextend yourself this way, then you get recognized for it, then you get more responsibility, then you crush that, then you get recognition or promotion, and then it but the more you do it, the less freedom you have. And that's where but there's this, it's almost like a tick. Like you need to have achievement, and the social recognition does matter in some way. And what I do see with investors or whomever on their journey, social media, I wonder if that serves some purpose. I actually don't particularly love putting posts on social media, but I'm doing it consistently to show that I'm committed and that I want to teach others what I'm learning. And I wonder if that somehow fills the bucket a little bit, just to see people liking. Like, I'm not doing it to get a bunch of followers. That's not my goal. I want to put helpful content out there for whoever wants to consume it, even if it's a few folks. Maybe they'll become business partners in some way. Like, I'll admit that's one of the objectives, but I'm curious, if I were to do only this full time, would just that fulfill me? And I'm not so sure. You got to stay eyes on the prize, or really clear on your container, like you said at the beginning.
Yeah, so and that's why it becomes important to understand what you value most. If you value status, accolades, and stuff, then you're going to struggle quite a bit for at least in the beginning stage of it. I have status now. I have people recognize me as a leader, but that came much later on. That's like for 6, 7 years, nobody even heard of me. And I was doing the work in the background, day in, day out. I was doing all this stuff, and it's not like I was suffering. The reason why I was doing this because I enjoyed the process. I loved supporting people in what I was doing. I loved working through it. I struggled a lot, but it was so important for me, and that's why I did it. And that's what I'm saying. If you're not clear about that, so a lot of investors will jump in and do this, but they miss that status stuff. They miss being
Mm.
recognized. They miss, and that creates a lot of resistance because they're not clear as to what truly matters to them. And a lot of the work that I do, I help people figure out based on their evolution, based on their growth, what are their important values, and how can they connect? How can they remind themselves? How can they stay connected to it? Because once that's there, they'll make decisions like you're making with your corporate job, and this is that, oh, okay, that's a no-brainer. This is important to me. I'm not trying to influence your decision one way or another, but that just as an analogy because you came in. And this is what happens. So somebody starts working with me for 6 months. Within 6 months, to other people, it looks surprising. To me, it's a normal process at this point. Within 6 months, and this is actually fairly common when I work with these 6 months to 1 year, they will completely move to a different place. They'll quit their job. They will do a bunch of stuff. And I didn't tell them to do any of that stuff. They become clear about their own direction. They become clear about their own vision, purpose. They actually make decisions themselves. I'm just asking questions to help them dig deeper. They understand what their life is about. So their decisions look erratic and all of a sudden monumental, but it's only because they begin to understand who they are and what their path is. And so they're not pulled by, you brought in social media. They're not pulled by these. And this is so interesting. My business coach, he's a nine-figure coach in the Mindvalley world. But he was talking about it because one of the coaches in the small mastermind that I'm in with him, she was posting a lot of stuff, and he kind of detected that it was less about service. It was more about getting the likes and followers. And he
Mm.
intuitively went in a direction. Many people might know about Jay Shetty, and he's
Oh
friends with
yeah.
him. It's like Jay Shetty is a big celebrity, but he's broke
Oh
compared to the
really?
effort that he has puts in. And he gave a comparison, like take Mind Valley versus Jay Shetty. Mind Valley has much lower likes and followers and all that stuff, but they're doing 150 million. Jay Shetty, probably 10 million. It's
Wow.
like he has status and accolades and all that stuff, but people get the wrong conception that followers gives you cash flow and money. It doesn't. There are a lot of YouTubers who have thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. They don't make much money because they don't understand business and offering and a sustainable system. So when a lot of these coaches come in, they're looking to increase the number of followers or investors who are doing capital raising. I'm like, that's not that important in the beginning. It's what's probably important is deeper relationships, how you're moving them through your process, what they're getting, your track record, how you're supporting them. That stuff is more business related. That's strategic. That has a process. You need to keep improving on it. That stuff is day in, day out work without any recognition whatsoever.
Right.
And people are pulled by shiny stuff that looks great on the outside, but the actual deeper work is no acknowledgement whatsoever. And that's why the only acknowledgement that matters is what you're doing this for. What is your vision? What is your why? What is your purpose? Wow. When you're sitting down, when you're distracted and you're sitting down trying to work behind your computer, if you don't have an internal drive, there are not much external feedback like you do in the corporate world for you to move forward, at least in the beginning, until you build your community and your people around you, and then that stuff will come in. But initially, it can be a very lonely path, especially when you're in your own space.
Right.
I don't know if that was clear. I hope
Oh,
that was.
for sure, for sure. And yeah, it helps me at least that, I'm not trying to gain a bunch of followers, but I am trying to put out helpful content. And if anything, excuse me, it's practice so that, if and when I learn and refine my own process, hopefully I can teach others to achieve the same, those who are interested, and I get to spend time with people like you on this podcast where I get to learn from folks who have done incredible things and then hopefully, give that back to whoever wants to listen. So,
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and like any marketer you talk to, any person who's done great in the podcast and marketing, or like Gary Vee, Alex Hormozy, and these guys, like Alex Hormozy's podcast that's big and the game. It took him. He's like for his YouTube channel. It's like for 4 years I wasn't even expecting anything, and nobody knew about me. It was
yeah.
actually 4 years, and most podcasts actually pick up around 3 to 4 year mark. And but
Wow.
now on average, you look at most people can't get past. I think it's a few dozen episodes.
Hmm.
Why? Because they started it for an outcome in mind versus the process. Gary Vee says the same. It's like if you same thing. If you compare two people, one person starts it because they're dedicated to it, because they enjoy the process, they're learning from it, they're growing through it, versus another person who starts it because they want to get some leads from it. I guarantee you, the person who is enjoying it, that's more sustainable, and that will sustain for the next 2 years and 3 years, and somehow it just picks up, and everybody sees now they have thousands of followers. It's like, oh, we should follow that, but you don't know what that person was feeling and thinking. Now you have an outcome in mind, which is leads. It's a lot of work to maintain something.
Right.
Why, if you don't have an intrinsic drive towards it, external things are not enough. This is why most entrepreneurs are not externally driven by it only. They're not just driven by money. Actually, they're much more driven by the intrinsic rewards of solving problems, going towards the things that matter to them, having that sense of freedom. being able to contribute in the way that matters to them. Like there are several reasons that are underneath the tip of the iceberg that most people don't see. And a lot of people jump in for the promise of this making you money, but you better be sure this if this feels aligned with you as a person. And I've worked with many investors who've changed direction because they realized that it's like, no, this is not for me. I've worked with many coaches who've changed direction. It's like, no, this is not for me.
Mm.
Because they had to go deeper. Other kinds of entrepreneurs that picked something, but they were struggling. They weren't struggling because there was something wrong with the business because they were not in it fully. They
Wow.
just because the sustainability of it is directly related to how much it matters to you in relation to the path that you're taking internally. And then there's the external reward that will come in at some point. But until that comes in, you won't be able to sustain it. This is why most businesses will crash within 2 years, not because business is complicated, straightforward process. And people who actually start businesses, they've done much more complicated things. They're usually engineers, doctors, and all sorts of things, software analysts. And I'm like, you've done much more complicated things than run a business. Why is it that you will fail? Because it's an emotional problem,
Hmm.
a deeper emotional and spiritual problem that they haven't worked out. It's not part of their path, so it's easier to give up and they can't sustain it. But when you look at it, somebody who might not have much of an education, they can figure out business very quickly. Robert Kiyosaki talks about it. All you need to do is just be not even a high school graduate. I think he said eighth grade level for you to be able to do business. And many people are less educated. So how are they able to figure it out? They have something else. They build emotional resilience. They know their path forward. They know why it matters to them. They might not be able to articulate these things, but they've developed it either through their life or somebody has taught them, or they've learned, life has forced them to learn that, or they've had mentors or something like that. And usually, more often than not, people have mentors and coaches. They might not even call them mentors and coaches, but they have them.
Right. Right. Environment and the people you associate with matter. But what I'm really hearing is to love the process. And that is something that is so intrinsic or it's so personal. But what I do see is the key to success is consistency. And
Yeah.
I see it in two parts. Consistency in terms of how often you show up. So it's like getting those reps in. And that the word you kept using was sustainable. It's sustainable if you truly love the process, but there's also consistency in the way you show up, like in your behavior or your authenticity. What something I really don't like in people, I won't say any names, but when I encounter somebody who's not consistent, like it's not predictable what type of person I'm going to get, what type of mood, or people are can have their moods. That's understandable. I want people to show up as their true self, whatever they're coming in with that day or that moment. But when you don't really know where you stand with someone or what their motives are, like if you have a consistent motive to like, I just want to share something that's helpful to somebody, if that's truly authentic to you and that's genuine, the rest will follow. But if it's just like, I am doing this because of the wrong reasons, you're probably not going to have a consistent approach. Actually, you're probably not going to be a predictable person because you're going to keep trying what you think is going to please the
Yeah.
masses.
Yeah,
And
and that's exactly, and I completely agree that consistent. If you're a capital raiser, for example, consistency matters so much. And most, like if you watch capital raisers come in and they go out, they will stop, but there are ones that are consistent. Why are they consistent? They're driven by something else. There are investors that are driven by something. They've been at it for years. They're in social media day in, day out, not because they're looking for followers, but because this is what matters to them. And what helps them sustain that, and I'm a certified high performance coach, is based on a lot of research of the top 15% of highest performers in the world in different walks of life. And the research is in 193 different countries. And it's also based on about 20 plus years of coaching experience to see how these people at the top level of their career, their life, how do they operate? And you will find something very clear is that their consistency was not just driven because they were getting external feedback like money, status, and accolades. They had that to some degree, but it was more driven by their own internal mission. It was more driven by their own conviction. It was more driven by their clarity. It was more driven by the kind of network they developed around themselves, which was based on who they were. And what so they had to create something that was sustainable, and that sustainability is very hard to create, and that which is starts with consistency, but most people give up. And we're living in a world where you read a lot of these books and podcasts where I won't name any names, but what you will hear is, well, discipline is hard, you must do this, you must sacrifice, you must suffer. They're sharing. I don't think they're accurately describing this whole thing at all. If I tell you that I'm disciplined to be a coach, it would be an inaccurate. The effect of it is discipline, but the reason for it is completely different. If somebody is very disciplined in working out, I guarantee you they enjoy doing that to some
Yeah.
degree. Because I know people who are very disciplined in one area, and I bring them to into another space, they can't be disciplined to save their life.
Hmm.
So if you're going to be distant, for example, I wake up every morning at most mornings, 6 in the morning, not because somebody's telling me to wake up or anything. I'm actually excited to wake up to do the things that I want to do, or like I'm excited to jump into my work because it's part of my path. I do things. I work out actually not because I enjoy working out. That came up afterwards because I need to maintain my energy, because I need to do my work. I need to be there for my family. There are certain pieces of my life that were important to me. I wasn't disciplined because I'm disciplined to work. I'm not disciplined to eat better because I'm just a disciplined person that way. I'm not. Like if you let me be, I can eat a lot of things. I love food too.
Yeah.
But I am because there's a thought process like, how does this affect energy? Why do I not drink? Because I know it affects my mind, it affects how I communicate. Why is that important to me? Because this is what I do. My job is to help communicate certain things. If drinking affects my thinking process and how I communicate things, then I'm failing at that, the thing that matters to me. And that was not an easy decision for me. Like these are decisions I've made because my path is clear or has become clear over time. But going back to consistency, people don't develop consistency because they don't know who they are and who
Hmm.
they're aspiring to be. Comes
Right.
back to those kind of questions. And you can hire productivity coaches, you can hire all sorts of coaches who will give you all sorts of amazing tools, or you can hire business coaches. None of that will matter if it's not important for you and you haven't done the work to figure out why it's important to you or not. And also, I'm not surprised that you're making better decisions because you have a coach who helps you
Hmm.
kind of dig deeper into these areas, will ask you the difficult questions that we will not ask ourselves, because it's hard to ask ourselves the same questions. When I'm stuck, I will work through it a little bit, but I realize that it's like I need to get on a call with my coach and mentor. I need to figure out what's going on there because I'm not able to see certain things. I feel stuck, and just the feeling of feeling stuck is more of it's like an indication that I need support. I have community members, I have friend members, people will kind of pull out it's like, hey, tell me what I'm doing wrong. I literally go on certain calls with my mentors and coaches, be like, here's what I'm thinking, poke holes in my thinking. What am I doing wrong here? What am I doing right? Does this make sense? Like I'm constantly getting feedback from my environment, and I'm constantly trying to figure out what matters to me. And I guarantee you, most people who are not, their path is not working out, they're not doing that. They're always busy doing something, but they haven't stepped back and worked through what really matters to them. As soon as they do that, all of a sudden a magical thing starts to happen. They start to get focused. They start to get consistent. They start to get rid of all sorts of distractions that don't matter to them. They start to become disciplined, but discipline is more of an effect than it is a cause. Most people assume it's a cause. It's like it's the thing in itself. No, it's more of an effect. Money is an effect of doing business right. People think money is the thing. No, it's not. It's you putting the thing that's of value out in the marketplace, whether it's in the investing world or any other business. Your health is more of an effect of what you do on a day-to-day basis. Your personality is more of an effect of what you do on a day-to-day basis, what you think, what you feel. And very few people are intentional around this. And I don't blame people for that because our family systems, our educational systems have failed in that area many times. And I don't blame parents or teachers or any of that stuff because the systems have gone corrupted for a long time. And we're kind of like at the tail end of the corrupted systems where we're kind of getting the worst pieces of information to apply in our life.
Hmm.
But when you actually dig deeper and you find out there's so much there's to learn and apply. And once you figure that out and you figure out your path, life becomes simpler. it won't become easy, but it becomes simpler. And you will develop the resiliency to move towards becoming a better version of you who will be able to tackle challenges better, will be able to go through almost anything. And you will not look at challenges as a negative thing, it's just a part of your growth. You will not look at struggles in business and life as that. But if you haven't done the deeper work, you will always struggle. And it's just, I don't care what tools you have, I don't care what you have in there. So my biggest thing would be is to take the time to step back from your life, do the work. If you know how to do it, work on it yourself. Get a coach, get a mentor, find a community. Don't do this on your own. It's not worth it because you're gonna waste about 10 years. And I can tell you there are a lot of people I meet like, I wish I did this 10 years ago. I'm like, why didn't you do it 10 years ago? Because I didn't have the support. I didn't know how to work through it. A lot of investors I meet, I was actually going to do a video. I've just heard of 3 investors that lost their marriages. I know
Mm.
exactly why they went through that. I was able to save at least 2 investors' marriages just this past year, help them do that not because oh I'm so great, but they had to step back and reprioritize and figure out what really matters here. And they could have easily gone in that path. I've helped a bunch of people save their businesses. Why? Because I had to get them to pull out of the busyness and actually focus on the things that truly matter. That doesn't happen because we live in the culture, especially in North America, of busy, 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 busy doesn't equate to you achieving anything. It just means that you're a busy bee, but are you doing things that actually take you towards what matters?
That was, there's so much in that, and it's beautiful. And it brings us to the top of the hour, which is almost a perfect way to close. But there are three things that I'd want to pull out of the many great pearls you just gave us. So, discipline, challenging questions, and support. So, about discipline, where it's not so much about punishment, it's more actually about doing the things that will return you to your joy or to the things that matter to you. So, when you're really clear on that, the discipline comes quite easily, actually. I like your example of, you can be really disciplined in the gym, but that probably fills you in a way that being disciplined in playing chess might not be, right? So,
Mhm.
not that gym rats can't be good chess players, but just an example. So discipline is not about the punishment, but bringing you back to what matters. But understanding what matters brings me to that second part, which is asking yourself those challenging questions or really pausing to reflect. And admittedly, in my session with my coach yesterday, I found myself resisting. But when you said it that way, it made so much sense. Like, of course, I'm resisting because we are poking holes in what I thought I had conviction in, and he's asking me questions that are actually getting me deeper. It's difficult, so that's why I'm not sitting here with ease, and these are difficult, tough questions, but I'm setting aside the time and investing myself in figuring that out with a coach. And so that's a third thing, which is the support, is to have that community, have the right people around you, hire a coach, just get that support so that you're not that person that says, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? So if you like what you heard today, faisalenson.com is one way to connect with you. But before we fully close out with how we can find you online, any closing advice that you have for our listeners?
Oh, it's a cliche statement, but before you do anything else, I mean, continue to do what you were doing, but figure out who you are. If you have confusions about who you are deep down and what matters to you and what you're going towards, that should be enough of an indication for you to put effort in that area. And maybe that's what I'll leave with value. Whether you work with me or not, there's a lot of value I can give you. So if you're interested in figuring that path out, just message me on Facebook or LinkedIn. Just say 10x with Amanda, something like that, and I'll give you access to my course that I sell for 497. It will take you from vision to your strategy to figuring out what your priorities might be based on that, figuring out how you can communicate that to the people around you. At least that will get you started. And I've given Amanda a PDF to go through that. There are some trainings. It will get you started on that path. And then you can figure out what to do after that. But I give a lot of resources there, so that will keep you busy for a little bit and get you to actually step back and rethinking. A lot of people who've gone through it and they're like, "Holy shit, I haven't thought about any of this stuff in this way for as long as I remember. And I work with people on average anywhere from 30-year-old to 60-year-olds. And a lot of these people are in 40, 50, and they haven't figured out these things in their life. And that's not uncommon. Uh, but just send me a message, either my team member, or I'll respond on LinkedIn or Facebook. Just put 10x with Amanda, and I'll give you a coupon code that will get you my course for free.
Thank you so much, Faisal. Very generous of you. So, folks, get out there, find yourself. And if you need help with that, find Faisal. And the link to the PDF and his website and other ways to find him will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate you.